Hi, I'm Allison Hare, a former corporate executive turned coach and keynote speaker for women making big moves. And I'm on a mission to help you and me create more space and freedom in our really busy lives. Welcome to the Late Learner Podcast, where here we are ditching the outdated norms. You know, the ones that we've all been taught to live in, and we find more modern solutions that just plain work better for you. So what are we late learning today? Well, today I'm going to go off on a little bit of a rant. I have some really strong opinions on the personal development space, and I think it's time some things really need to be addressed and updated. And, you know, honestly, I think there is a danger in the self-help world, personal development, whatever you call it. And the danger is that we can easily slip into the name of like self-improvement, but it could actually be keeping us down and keeping us behind. And we don't want to be down, we want to be up. So stay tuned. Before we jump in, I need to ask you, do you get my weekly newsletter called the Reinvention Roadmap? It is a completely free way to go one-on-one with me. Every week, I'm sending you this totally for free, relatable insights, brave strategies, and action steps for you to step into your next best chapter. And it always ends with a fun twist. Go to AllisonHare.com/email. And, you know, we are in September, aren't we? We're in September, so we've got about 3 months until 2025 hits us in the face. But we don't want that, right? So if you're looking for a more personalized way to reinvent your future on your own terms, I am going to be working with 2 additional people one-on-one for a 3-month outcome-driven engagement. So if you're in a spot where you've been considering making a big life change, or you're ready to start that podcast or make a career change, but you're not sure how to find the space or time or even clarity to do it, it almost feels like you might be stuck at the start. Let's get on a free phone call to brainstorm. Who knows? It could be exactly what you need to get you off that stump and moving towards the goal that you want to. Go to AllisonHare.com/schedule. Okay, now let me get into my rant a little bit. And I'm going to go a little bit off the cuff too. So last weekend, I was at Lewis Howes' Summit of Greatness. So Lewis Howes is one of the biggest podcasters in the world. So he interviews the biggest thought leaders in the world. He's had this podcast for 11 and a half years. Super popular. And every year, I think for the past 7 years, he's had this Summit of Greatness. And the Summit of Greatness, he invites all of these speakers and all of these kind of like-minded, forward-facing, mission-driven people that care about making an impact in the world and doing some good in the world and getting, you know, just I don't know, being awesome. It's like a kind of an optimization kind of thing. So I got the opportunity to go last weekend, and I work and partner with a company called Brand Builders Group. So it is a personal brand strategy firm. I help them out with sales. I'm also a client, and I am also a subject matter expert for them in the podcast space. And so the co-founder, Rory Vaden, who is one of the greatest speakers of all time, literally, he is a global World Hall of Fame speaker. He was speaking at the event and had asked me to go and be part of the experience. So I was super excited to do it. And something started to happen as I was listening to all of these speakers. So they had they had Esther Perel was there, Dr. Joe Dispenza, David Goggins, Rachel Platten, the musician, was there. Harry Mack, all of these amazing, amazing speakers. And of course, Rory Vaden, Cody Sanchez, just really, just a knockout lineup of speakers. And what I started to notice is that I kept hearing the word heal. I need to heal. This is how you heal. We are healing. And I thought, man, I feel like we need a new word. I feel like we need a new word to that. And so heal this, heal everything. So I looked up the definition of Merriam-Webster's definition of healing: to make free from injury or disease, to make sound or whole, to heal a wound, to make well again, to restore to health, heal the sick. Okay, stick with me. Stick with me here. So I'll tell you a story. This happened maybe about a year ago, and I was in this weird, dark place. Nothing I did went right. When you're just kind of pile driving yourself into the ground, like I was working so hard, but I feel like I wanted success so badly that it was almost like Of Mice and Men, how Lenny, he loves the mouse so much that he squeezes it to death. That was kind of what I felt. And so I remember being in this space where I'm like, if I could only, hear this message, if I could do this one thing, if I could have this one breakthrough, everything would feel better. But it felt like I just kept hitting walls. And I decided I'm going to go hike. That's what happens. That's what happens. I do an endurance challenge. That's how I like to unwind. And when I get in these spots and really wound around the axle, I generally love endurance challenges. But sometimes I absolutely need to do it because it's the only way that I find that I can unwind my own brain when I am so wrapped up, and just was really in a state of panic and stress, and I didn't know how to get out of it. It was just an awful feeling. I don't know if you feel that way, if you felt that way before, but at times in my life, I've felt that way. So I went to North Carolina. So I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And I decided I was going to climb Mount Mitchell, which is the tallest peak east of the Mississippi River. And I was going to do it solo. I was going to do it all by myself. So I think it is 6,000 or 7,000 foot elevation. So I went all the way to the bottom and all this stuff and was going up and doing it alone. So as I was driving to North Carolina, it's about a 4-hour drive. I actually love long rides because I catch up on podcasts, I catch up on audiobooks, but I felt like I was almost in a state of sickness where I would open up my podcast. App, and I was like, this one looks good. How to manifest anything you want. All right, I'm going to listen to that. Maybe this will be the secret. And every single episode was like some kind of self-help, something or other. And I started to notice that even as I'm driving away from my home, away from my life, so I could be in a place where I can unwind and be in the quiet, be by myself, I felt worse. So I started to notice all of the titles on like the personal development and self-help podcast. And I'll read a few of them. I just went into, you could probably guess which podcast I'm looking at, but I started to read some of the titles. 7 lessons to improve your life forever. 3 steps to eliminate self-doubt. 7 signs you may have high-functioning depression. 3 simple ways to get the love you want. How to stop dimming your light. Stop worrying and start living. Strategies to move past worry and self-sabotage. How to break through your fear. Why we can't sleep and how to fix it. Break up with busyness and let go of your to-do list. I'm wondering, as I've read those, did you start to see maybe a pattern? Maybe one of them is like people love like the 3 steps, the 5 signals, the 5 simple strategies, like that. It is kind of a, simplified way to do it. But what I started to realize, and kind of the definition of healing implies that something is broken, something that needs to be fixed, something is wrong. And I feel like this continuous spotlight on what's wrong, how to fix it, perpetually disempowers us and inherently implies that we are broken. Okay, So do I have this fully baked? I'm going to be verbally processing this with you, but it keeps coming up again and again where I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm not broken. We aren't broken. Let me take you back on this trip. So I'm driving to North Carolina. It's 2 hours. I'm feeling like shit. I'm listening to all of these podcasts, some that are lighter, some that are more on the spiritual realm, some that are like kind of the Mel Robbins kind of thing. And man, I'm feeling terrible. I'm listening to audiobooks and I'm like, I can't seem to get any relief. And I'm trying to get the fuck out of where I am so I can get some clarity. And I realized, oh, okay, I get it now. I'm not broken. None of these podcasts are going to help because nothing is wrong. And I turned it off and I just listened in the quiet. I didn't even turn on music because I didn't want to be influenced. I wanted to see. And as soon as I started to see the mountains as I was driving, I felt this wave of comfort. I felt this wave of peace fall over me. It was unbelievable that the moment I shut off all the noise that was almost inherently implying that I was broken or something needed to be fixed. It's like when you pathologize things. There are so many podcasts I've listened to, and I want to do a caveat on this too, but there are so many podcasts that I've listened to where I'm like, oh, like they'll call it people pleasing or they will call it anxious attachment or some type of label. And by the way, I think those labels are really helpful to almost categorize how you're feeling, or at least, emotionally verbalize, give it almost a compartment that kind of helps you. But too much of it feels like a pathology. When I would listen to these podcasts and be so fascinated by it, I would share it with my friends. Wow, I didn't realize I really am struggling with this, that it was pathologizing things I didn't even think I had a problem with. It was literally inventing problems that they would spoon feed the answers to me. And I believe, I get it. I have a podcast, so I also have fallen prey to this too. But I'm trying to be a little more mindful over, wait. You are not broken. I understand healing, the word healing, like broken bone, wound, surgery, those kind of things. And I don't want to take away from trauma and actually processing it in a healthier way. But I wonder if we replace the word heal with the phrase, I'm changing my relationship to. So when I think about trauma and I think about what you may have experienced, what I might have experienced in our lifetimes, sexual abuse, assault, maybe you were called terrible names, manipulated. Maybe you have narcissists that are in your midst. Maybe you have manipulated people or hurt people. Maybe you have a parent that struggled with addiction and you might struggle with addiction, neglect, being misunderstood, negative self-talk, loss, grief, pain. These are all really real traumas. I don't want to take away from the gravity of the imprint and the scars that those leave on our body. But I want to be clear and kind of reframe this a little bit. Your mind and your body responded to those experiences exactly as they should. Now, the caveat I have is that if your wiring is different, this is kind of outside the realm of, I don't know how to say it, like a mental disorder. Like I'm not a therapist, right? But I feel like the language is really important here. And I want to be clear, this is outside of like medical or psychiatric diagnoses. I don't have any right to talk about that as an expert. So I want to be clear with that. But I do want to say that our body, like, the book, Your Body Keeps the Score. your mind and body responds to those experiences appropriately. So you putting your walls up so that you won't get with the wrong guy again, or when you can't settle for anything less than perfect because you are fearful of being judged or losing the place that you have worked so hard to be in. You need to overprove your worth again and again and again. And let's not forget about the comparison trap. It's your mind and body are doing that to protect you. It is adaptive behavior. And excuse me, I was thinking about my children, and my kids aren't really athletic kids. They're not enrolled in a ton of activities after school. And I remember, like asking my kids' friends' mothers, hey, is your child around? My kid would love to get with them, like setting up play dates, or I guess they're hangs now. My kids are a little bit older for play dates, but setting up hangs. And they would always say, oh, no, sorry, so-and-so's in, they've got piano on Tuesday, and Monday they have football, and then it's soccer, and then it's math tutor Wednesday, followed by something. It was like it was like everything, every single day. And I thought, Lord, man, I really need to start enrolling my kids in stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like there's so much comparison that kind of drives our behavior. And me even thinking, is something wrong with me? I should enroll my kids in more stuff so they could have more experience and blah, blah, blah. I think that comparison is a really profound thing. And if you have seen the recent article and studies that have come out from the CDC that talk about, from the Surgeon General, that parents are really struggling right now because of the combination of stress, of anxiety, of worry, of being overworked. All of this stuff is coming together. And the top line of like the caption for that is the comparison trap and how difficult it is. So I want to kind of throw that in, as it feels really heavy. There is a lot on our plates, right? But I want to say that these behaviors that our body and our mind have done and kind of put up these protective walls and safeguards over, not feeling hurt or being smarter next time. And I'm not saying you weren't smart, but like, you know what I mean? Like protecting yourself, guarding yourself, all of those things. What if that adaptive behavior at some point becomes maladaptive, meaning there's no longer a bear or a lion chasing after you, because that's how your body responds in these stress signals. But what if nothing is wrong with you? What if nothing is broken? You have simply outgrown your container. What a powerful way to look at it, right? It's like you're wearing old clothes that are just too tight. They're itchy, they're scratchy, they're tattered. They're squeezing the wrong parts of you. Like you've outgrown your container. So what would a better fit look like? What would it look like to have more room to move around in? One that feels like you. And let's be real. You know that if you're listening to this show is called Late Learner. And typically what happens when you're 35 plus, 40 plus, you are, you're in the process of reinvention. You are shedding old identities. This is your reinvention. And so I think there's no way that you can get around it, is that you realize like, hey, all of what got me here will not get me to the next place, right? And so you have the choice of, do I purposely shed this, or is this stuff kind of pushed on me, right? Where you are forced to react in a way that feels like you have less control. And so I think about, if that's the case, how do you find more space? And I'm really interested in what is your full expression of who you are. And I think about it in 4 segments: begin, belong, become, blossom. So where do you begin? Where do you begin? Where do you belong? And a lot of that belonging belongs to yourself, like belonging to yourself, where you feel confident enough to set those boundaries. You aren't people pleasing, right? Where do you belong? Who can you become? And really, it almost is like you kind of bringing out your higher self. And I'll explain how this works in a minute because it's super exciting. How do you blossom? And again, this is not about healing something that's broken. It's moving from maladaptive to adaptive. This is becoming the you that has been sitting on your chest saying, let me out. And it will not let up. You know what that feeling is? That feeling when something is on your chest and it will not let go. Or else you could just deal. You could just be happy. You could just be fulfilled. And I understand the feeling of like, there's guilt and gratitude. And there's gratitude in the guilt, right? Like there's guilt because there's gratitude. Like I have so much. Why isn't this enough? What, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I've checked all the boxes. Why don't I feel peace? Why isn't this enough? And I can't tell you how many times I have cried at this very desk when I was working in the corporate world and honestly, just cried to coaches, to mentors, to people that genuinely cared. I have so much. Why can't this be enough? And it was like this grip that would not let go. And it was just that thing on my chest that was like, let me out. Let me out. And I'll tell you what, that feeling on your chest, it will not let up until you do something about it. And it's time to shake that tree. And once you shake that tree, the tension starts to release. The grip loosens. And the truth is, you can't lose when you're in full alignment. You can't lose. And that's where the trust and the faith come in. So what happens next to you when you start to loosen that grip and start asking better questions, not normalizing the pain of, well, I guess this is my lot in life. I just need to deal with it. If that thing is on your heart, you need to address it. You need to let it out. You need to at least let it breathe and see what is knocking in there. And what happens is the wrong doors, they'll close on you. You may not know that they're wrong yet. And the right ones start to open when you're in alignment because your discernment to know the difference sharpens. So if you've been listening to me for a while or follow me on Instagram, you may know a little bit about this story. And if you're new to me, I'm glad you're here. But a couple of months ago, I decided I was going to sign up for the Running Man Festival. The Running Man Festival is truly a festival for runners. And I'm not a runner. I don't ever run. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. It's not my thing. I love to work out, don't hate running. But I love the organizers decided to sign up for the Running Man Festival. And it was this past weekend. So I start training for a half marathon. I've never done a half marathon. I've never done more than a 10K. And the 10K, I thought I was going to die. And I was like essentially felt like I was crawling over broken glass by the time it ended, where it was just a very pathetic kind of 10K. But I committed like, hey, I'm going to do a half marathon. So I'm training, I'm pumped about it, and I'm documenting the journey. I'm super excited. A lot of people are supporting me and cheering me on. It feels really good. It's a totally different world. I made this commitment that I was going to change my relationship to running. I wasn't going to give any voice to, I hate running. It sucks. I hate it. This blows. I'm not a runner. I'm like, I'm going to change my relationship to it. How can I make this more enjoyable? So I started to love it. I started to love, maybe not necessarily the physical part about it, although my body started to get used to it, like from a stamina perspective, from a heart perspective, from a lung perspective. But I started to love the way my head felt. So I'm training for it. I'm super pumped about it. And it's a 3-day festival. It's almost like a running retreat. And I'm so excited. And about 2.5 weeks ago, I get a note from Rory Vaden, the co-founder of Brand Builders Group. And he says, Allison, I'm speaking at the Summit of Greatness at Lewis Howe's event. I would love for you to be there and support Brand Builders Group. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how exciting. But it's the same weekend as Running Man that I've been training for and spent a ton of money on. So I start messaging him back. Oh my God, I would love this, but I already am committed to this half marathon I've been training for. But then I paused and I'm like, I can't send this, because that morning I had sat out on my porch, as I've been trying to do more and more, to meditate. Like, I literally just sit on my porch with my eyes closed and be quiet for 15 minutes and just let the hamsters run if they need to run, or just, be in peace. I just take a few minutes to do that. But that particular morning, I felt like I pray to God and say, God, show me a sign, a blue butterfly, show me the way, whatever. I feel like I've been doing it wrong. Like, I've been begging him and mad, and this morning I said, you know what? I can't, I'm not, like, you already know my heart. You already know my heart. I ask that you open a window or a door and give me the discernment to know the difference. And that was the day that Rory sent that message. And I had typed out the message, backspace, 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 backspace. I'll be there. Put me in, coach. Because I knew that that was the door I needed to go through. And so what happens when you're in full alignment, that discernment becomes crystal clear. And the experience at the Summit of Greatness, the people that I met it was so clear, I think on both sides, like we were meant to meet, people that I'm now keeping up with and now supporting. And what an exciting thing when everybody is in that same headspace. So I highly recommend it maybe for next year. If you're interested in the Lewis Howe's Summit of Greatness, it was really great. But everybody was there. I kept asking people like, hey, what's your intention for the weekend? And everybody was so open. And they're like, I just want to meet people. I want to put myself in a place where I can meet like-minded people that are uplifting, that care about making a difference, that are moving upwards and moving upwards in a really positive way. And my goodness, I literally met some life-changing people and had some life-changing experiences while I'm there. And it was so gratifying, and I'm so grateful for that. So I want you to know, like, again, that feeling on your chest, you are not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. You have simply outgrown your container. What that means is that those behaviors, those adaptive behaviors, became maladaptive. And I don't know that healing, like the true word of healing, is like fixing something that's broken. I think it's more of an adjustment of like changing your relationship to it, like processing it in a healthy way. And I don't know if I'm like getting way too caught up in the semantics of it, but what I believe is that peace is what you want. Peace in your heart. Like, what would the puzzle look like if you had peace? Does it have to be this specific way that you dreamed it could, or thought it should be? Or you feel so much tension because you built it this one way, but it didn't really give you the fulfillment that you wanted. So what if that puzzle gets put together in a different way that feels more aligned, that gives you peace, that brings you more fulfillment, that brings you joy and opportunity and possibility and room and space? That's where it is. I don't want you to grind yourself into the ground because that is all you know. I know this life. We are now aware that our body did what it is supposed to do. Thank you. Next, it is time to rewrite your most aligned future. So what does that mean for you? Starting the podcast, writing the book, changing careers, stop taking meetings that could have been emails, get them off your calendar, ask for help, hire the coach, call a friend, whatever you do, don't stay unfulfilled. And when I got to go to the Summit of Greatness and saw Dr. Joe Dispenza, he said, this really hit me like a ton of bricks. You become addicted to a life you don't even like. Damn. Are we addicted to lives we don't like? It does not have to take a crisis to change. You can choose your own adventure now before the crisis hits you. And that's the tricky thing about, when you get past a certain age, a lot of these things, these maladaptive behaviors, they were protective, but if they are maladaptive at some point, then your choices get limited or something may happen. We don't want that, right? While you have the opportunity, while you're able-bodied, while you're able-minded, while you have options, can you choose a different path? So how do you do it? So I'm going to give you a secret to the coaching that I do in my private coaching. And I love it. It works every time. It's super exciting. And you can totally do this now. I call it boom, room, and bloom. So the first thing is, what makes you boom? What gives you energy? What are those things that could be really small, like just, like noticing how bright and beautiful the moon is, or feeling the wind blow on your face, or drinking a cup of tea, or it could be exercising. It doesn't matter. What gives you energy? Make a list of 10 things. If you need help with this, I've got a free download. You can go to AllisonHair.com/energy. And it has a whole easy checklist, workbook, a PDF worksheet. Worksheet is more like it, with 40 different ideas to help kind of get your thought joggers together. But what gives you energy? I don't care how busy you are. It'll take you 5 minutes to put it together. So first, identify what does give you energy. Then we do something, we go from boom to room. And room is like, how do you find the room? And so that might be little 5-minute increments in your calendar that you block off. And also doing potentially a calendar audit to figure out, like, do I need all of these meetings? Are some of these ones that I can, become an email or take a quick 5-minute phone call instead of like a full 30-minute meeting, where you take a little bit of control? This is where you find expansion. This is where you imagine, I talked about the clothes being too small. It kind of feels, I call it fractures of light. It's like if you're in an egg, right? And the egg, you're all squished in the egg and it starts to crack. And you're like, what if I push on this crack? Because in that crack is light. And so you want to push on that crack so you can see what kind of room is outside of it, because you are expanding. That is, you've simply outgrown your container, you're expanding, you're finding room. And the last thing, and this is my favorite part, is bloom. And bloom is where you do creative experiments, because once you start kind of filling back up from an energy perspective, and then you have the room and you start doing it, I swear to you, you start getting energy rushing back. Your priorities start to get reshuffled because you're not operating out of a place of lack or stress, because you're prioritizing what lights you up. You're giving yourself permission, really, to prioritize what lights you up. So it's really, really powerful to do that. And what that looks like is creative exploration, creative experiments. This becomes your playground. What like the known is your comfort zone. And if you want to change, or if you want change, you must do things differently. So I'm going to get off my soapbox. I feel so passionate about this. I've seen it with my clients. I've seen them completely awaken and get the lives that they want. I love doing this work. And honestly, where I am the most lit up, where I love is people starting, like the launch of something different. So if you're in a position where you feel stuck at the start, and maybe you have built a big life, maybe you have the fancy cars and the fancy job and all of those things, and you're like, God, I love all of the lifestyle things that this life has afforded me, but it is killing me inside. I have what I want except for me. And if you're feeling like that and you're not sure, like, how do I even pivot when I feel like I don't have a chance to make a move? Those are like, if that's you, call me, because that is my jam. I'm the person people call when they get laid off, and they're like, oh, I'm so upset I got laid off. And I'm cheering. I'm like, woo! Now you get to build it on your own terms. Let's do this. So if that's you, if you are wanting help with this, I am opening up 2 spots for one-on-one coaching through the end of the year. So if you're thinking about like, hey, let's get started now, can you imagine you being so fired up to start 2025, not like clawing to the end of the earth with no energy, but like fully powered up and ready to go with the direction and empowered, and somebody in your passenger seat riding shotgun who's got a roadmap and has done this a time or two before. I'm your girl. If that's the case, go to AllisonHair.com/schedule. Now, won't you share this with one friend right now? Somebody you know who wants something new and exciting and different, but can kind of get stuck trying to figure out, where do I even start? That's who you share this with. And I want to thank you for listening. If I don't see you on the socials, I will see you right here on Late Learner Podcast again every Thursday when the next episode drops. Thanks so much.